Julia Ogg, Christine Malecki, myself, and this is one that Christine referenced, Woody Johnson in special ed. Christine, I think it was actually Christine that had applied for the PoP grant last year. And so we used that money. We felt like it was very helpful. So we used the money for two main things. We used the money to support a graduate student to help us with the actual grant submission when we were doing that 97% in the last 10 minutes or the last bit. And then we also used the money to hire a consultant to read our grant. So the graduate student, I feel like it was a good use of money and that it was a great learning experience for the graduate student to learn about writing grants, and the graduate student was very heavily involved in the process with us. And again, you know, we used for all kinds of helpful things, literature reviews, updating. This was a grant we had applied for prior. So helping update the literature review, doing references, just all of, you know, the 600 pages of appendices, all that stuff that Christine talked about was very helpful with the, so we were able to hire a graduate student. And then the consultant. We've had really good luck with getting consultants in terms of helping that really, I think, create a successful proposal. And we've usually found out who might be a good consultant. It depends. Sometimes we've found out from project officers and they will share that with you. Sometimes they seem hesitant to not share that with you. So it kind of depends on who the project officer is. But just by asking around in the, you know, networking and finding out who's been really successful in getting these grants. Every time we've asked someone to do it, they've been very happy to do that. And really provides a different perspective of someone, like you're in the middle of the grant and maybe can't see things as clearly. So someone reading that who could be, maybe was a reviewer before, things like that, to provide you with feedback. So, and I think one of the really helpful things about the PoP grant was that it's hard to get money for these types of activities. It's hard to find money to support a consultant and paying a consultant. And so that is one way that the PoP grant was really helpful to us, being able to hire a consultant and along with that graduate student. So we used the money for that, and then we got the grant. So obviously, so it was a $1.25 million training grant focused on bullying. So we were very pleased that we could use that money to support that project. So, and I don't know if people have questions, but, or if Julia or anyone or Christine has anything else to add about our use of that.
I was just going to say the consultants, you know, they read through, and it's been terrifying because every time we've had them, they drastically change. Like they'll say, I don't understand what you're doing. Or they'll say, you need to, you know, why aren't you creating, I talked about those dyads. That idea came from our consultants. Like you need to pair them up and have them together through the grant, and OSEP will love that. And sometimes it has meant that when we're 3 weeks out from the grant, we upset the apple cart and are basically starting over with some of the major components of the grant, but it's been worth it. So 2 times prior that we had gotten a consultant, those were the 2 times we were then ultimately funded. So we're hoping that is the case because we were able to get a consultant. Thank you to Kara Stick, who had some funds available that we were able to utilize to get a consultant this time as well. So really recommend it.
I was just going to add, in the current one thing, we did something a little different with our consultant, so we don't know if it will pay off yet because they just submitted it. But we noticed when we looked through the currently funded grants in this area that there was like 40 currently funded and 38 were in special ed. I'm making up that number, but it was close. And so we thought it might be helpful to have somebody with that different perspective. In the past, we've generally had somebody from our field, school psych, but this time we selected somebody from even a different field who could maybe help us think about what reviewers would be thinking from across different areas. So I could see that if you're applying to grants that are multidisciplinary, getting input from even people outside of your field could be valuable too. And he had a really different perspective. It was helpful.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that he was just, our consultant was just confused about because he's in a different field. And so realizing that a lot of the reviewers could be in fields outside of ours, it was helpful to get that perspective. perspective and change it so that people outside our field had a better understanding of the project. It was really helpful. And it's not that expensive. I feel like, I mean, relatively. Both times we probably spent about $2,000. Do you think that's right, you guys, on the consultant? Maybe a little under that.
Yep.
I mean, it depends, obviously, on how much you use them, but.
Are these the consultants, are they people who do this for a living? Are they people who are academics themselves?
No, we all of the times we've had 3 different consultants. They're academics that do this themselves and they've been successful. So each time it's been people that have had several of these grants. And so they're full-time academics and researchers.
And they have a price that they, how does it
Yeah,
work?
well, yeah, that's kind of, you kind of negotiate that. Some people who've done this before have a price that they'll say, this is kind of what I usually charge. Some people are much more flexible kind of about how that is worked out. So you kind of negotiate that, but a lot of them might have a certain fee that they're used to charging per hour. And then we just have them keep track of their hours.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So
Thanks,
you,
guys.
CISLL.
And by the way, I told Jerry Blasey about your use of consultants, and that helped him give us more money.
Oh, good.
So it was
Good,
like,
good.
I said, it doesn't cost a lot, but it really matters. So he liked that. So.
That's great.
Thank you. So next, some of the PoP grants for the researcher pilot focused. One of our winners was Jamie Meyer, and she's going to talk about what she did with the PoP money.
Okay, can you all hear me and see me?
Yes.
I'm actually
yes.
just popping back on. I was actually just working with the project that this grant was for, and then popped back on. So the timing worked out perfectly. So what I've been doing using with help from CISLL, including 30 iPads loaned by CISLL, is working with residents with dementia. We have a Bridges choir, and then I also started a new program called Zoom Pals, where basically I'm matching up individuals with dementia residing in local nursing homes with NIU students. And then I run a choir for individuals with dementia as well. And of course, pre-COVID, it was in person. Now it is all virtual, again, with CISLL's help. And what I did for today was put together a little video. So, and it's like just under 5 minutes, like I made sure, with actually some of the residents' perspectives on how things have gone this past year. So I thought I would just share that because it's more fun than hearing from me. I'm really hoping this works. So I just need to be able to share my screen. Can I do that?
Yeah, on the bottom, there's a box with an arrow in it that looks like a screen with an arrow. And then you can actually, second thing down under primary content, you can share application or screen. So you can actually share anything. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
And make sure you click share audio
Oh, yeah.
on the
good.
lower left.
Yes, I've had issues with that before, and I think I fixed it in Chrome. If you can't hear the audio, just tell me, and then, well, then I just won't share it.
Okay.
But I'm gonna try. So I'm gonna share a window. You'll see an iMovie pop up, and then I'll play that. But interrupt me like immediately if you can't hear it, because that's kind of the whole point. So hang on. Okay. So now you should. Let's see. So if I make it big and start playing, do you hear it?
Yes.
We can hear it, but we can't see
Yes.
it. When you made it big, it I think opens a new window, and then it's not the one you're sharing anymore.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Let me try again.
I've got a list of what I want to talk about with my students.
Okay. So I have to. So I guess I can't make it big.
Yeah, but at least for me, the non-big one was big enough.
Yes.
Yeah, full screen.
Okay. Let me try this again. Sorry. Okay. So share my screen, share the window. Okay, so I'll just share the not big one.
today. They know what they're going to say.
Okay.
To speak right shortly after it is increased. They are much more vocal. They're a lot happier. They always tell me how beautiful the singing is and the music is and how much they love it.
Well, I've been here in this facility for over a year, and it's been kind of cut and dry. And when the Husky Friends came along, it added a twist to everyday life that was very pleasant. Not only was it different people, but it was different young people, as opposed to idiots like me that have lived beyond 75 years. They boost my morale, they make me smile. Of course, the younger crowd, you know, are a lot funnier than us older people. But they're enjoyable. They really enthusiastic. It makes a lot of difference too.
Yeah.
Let Dr. Meyer keep doing this.
Why should they
It's a good thing for nursing homes, and I like it, you know. I don't know about everybody, but I would be the first one to come and grab, to talk to anyone, any students.
Okay.
Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, you know.
Talk. They're very, very emotional and very intelligent.
Okay. Anything else?
Some are married and some are not. Some are just college students and they graduate this year.
I get a good feeling from it, mainly because I never went farther than high school. And I like to hear their views on DeKalb and school and stuff like that I never had. Well, I didn't talk to that many, but the ones I did talk to never mentioned the pandemic, which I was kind of glad of, that we didn't need to talk about that. Yeah, because otherwise it's very quiet and very dead. You can't talk to anybody and there's no conversations going on, and that's not part of life.
About not being old.
I'm old, but I don't feel old.
You don't feel old. You don't look old either, that's for sure.
I know I'll be 88 pretty soon, and I feel real good.
You feel good? Does it with and to sing with?
Yes,
yeah.
Well, makes you feel like home.
Makes it feel a little bit more like home. Ted, what would you like to say to Dr. Mayer and her NIU student volunteers?
Thank you for everything, for helping me write my book, and thank you for helping me with everything, you know. Not only the choir, but talking to everybody. Maybe get the guys to take part of it. It's in the choir, but.
Okay, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So you just heard, well, you heard from a few of our residents, and I just had to tell you real quick. So Ted, who you're hearing right now, in choir, wants more guy students in our choir because speech path is, you know, mostly girls. And he talked about it today, like just now, right before I popped on here. And then the first individual that you heard from in this video, Fred, they were both on Zoom, and Ted said again, like, we need more guys in this choir. And then Fred jumped in and was like, I'm totally fine with it how it is. So, so they're all good. The last little bit of this is you can kind of see just like 30 seconds of what we're actually doing on Zoom. So what you're going to see is a video from just yesterday when we were running through just a tiny portion of Bridges Choir. So I'll just play that last little part. It's only like 30 seconds long, and then we'll be done with that video. So let me just get back to it here. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white. The dark, sacred night, and I said to myself, what a wonderful world.
Wonderful.
Okay, so I think hopefully that was just a little window into what we're doing. And again, thank you, CISLL, for all of your help.
Hey, thanks so much, Jamie. And Jamie also just recently got an award, right? The MAC Award? Yeah, congratulations to that. Yeah.
Thank you. And I know
the first person getting that, so.
Thank you. Yeah, that was exciting. And I do want to mention too, I know it's a research grant and we are collecting data, and the one nice, the one benefit to Zoom is that I can record everything and then go back post hoc and look for things like increases in language afterward, engagement, etc. But hopefully you just got a little taste of kind of what we've been able to do thanks to your help.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jamie.
Thanks.
Am I up?
Yes.
Yep, sorry, I was muted. Yes, next we have Lindsay Harris.
Jamie, I want to say you have such a beautiful voice. That was really lovely to listen to.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, mine is not quite so touching, I don't think. So I was just noticing that at our last CISLL retreat, I gave a talk called Investigating the Influence of Sensory Modality on Word Learning in Visual and Tactile Readers. Preliminary Findings was my last talk at CISLL. So this time I get to share the actual final findings. This was a project funded by a PoP grant, and not only did we wrap up collecting data, I've been writing manuscripts. A couple have already been sent out. Here is one I just sent out a couple weeks ago, the title page, and you can see that several of the co-authors are CISLL affiliates. Alicia Santuzzi, I think, is here today, Rocio Rodriguez. So it benefited from CISLL involvement. I'll just spend a couple minutes kind of briefly summarizing what we did and what we found. This was a word learning study in people who were blind and read Braille, and people who were sighted and read print, and everyone was an adult. And you can see on the table there a few examples of the words that people were learning. So these were really rare words, and people studied them in successive rounds. So the definitions were always written, but the words themselves were sometimes heard and sometimes read. And this was a within subjects design, so everybody heard some words and read some words. Before each opportunity to study a definition, participants were asked if they recalled it from the last round of study, and if they did, the word was taken out of the pile. And so our measure was how many words per round of study people learned on average. So here are some results. If you look at the graph, So the y-axis is the mean number of meetings mapped per rounds. So a higher value is more efficient learning. And the light gray bars are print readers and the dark gray bars are Braille readers. And it may appear that the print readers learned more efficiently than the Braille readers. They did, but they were also significantly younger. So once we controlled for age, there was no difference in which group learned more efficiently. However, and also neither modality was more efficient overall. People didn't learn better from writing or from spoken words overall. But there was a really interesting interaction in which the print readers learned more efficiently in the spoken modality, but the Braille readers, it made no difference to them. They performed equally well across modalities. And I have many theories as to why that happened, but I don't think I have time to go into them now. So if anybody wants to email me or call me up, we can discuss further. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that Alicia Santuzzi did these analyses, which was extremely helpful. So thank you, Alicia.
Karen, is your mic on?
Yep. Okay. So up next, sorry. I don't know the navigation in Blackboard very well. I'm very sorry.
Christian, do you have slides?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So Christian was our COSSA winner, and he's going to talk a little bit about the project that he worked on.
Yeah, can everyone see this?
Beautiful.
Oh, great. Yeah, so thank you, CISLL. I was last year's COSSA winner, and I was able to fund my dissertation project, which is entitled The Causal Role of Inferences Elicited from Accompanying Texts and Aesthetic Experiences. So I used my money to pay Mechanical Turk participants, and I'll talk a bit about the project. So as an overview, I'm interested in people understand paintings, and I use a lot of theories borrowed from discourse psychology. Specifically, paintings can be pretty ambiguous, even though they're using representational objects. So art viewers might be able to identify everything in the scene, but they still might not be able to understand what's going on. So I had two guiding research questions to sort of get at how people make sense of these paintings. The first research question was, what is the impact of accompanying text and aesthetic experiences? So if you're at the Art Institute of Chicago, you see they have a lot of paragraphs describing the scene so you can better understand and appreciate it. And then another research question, to what extent does the viewer's own inferences and own thoughts influence these aesthetic responses? So with my master's thesis, I was able to show that the more thoughts that people have, the more inferences they're making, the more pleasure and interest they feel for paintings. But with my dissertation, I wanted to show sort of a causal role. So I used an experimental design. So here's a sample material. This is a painting by Francisco Goya. You can see there's people gathering around. You can identify things with the people that are there, but you might not know what's going on. So you might have to rely on the accompanying text. So I had a few conditions. I'm going to just talk about two today. One was a full paragraph, which is something you might see in a museum. So you have some background information about the painter, what's going on in the scene, and then typically a sentence describing the scene. So this is the target idea here. This scene depicts an outdoor wedding, and then some more information about weddings and honeymoons at that time. So without this text, people might be confused to what's going on in the scene. They might think it's a family portrait or something like that. With this accompanying text that's given to them, they can better understand the painting. But if I give them that same text without that explicit target idea here, that target inference, with these gap texts, I was able to make sure that participants can infer that same idea. So they have the same information, but here they're generating it themselves. So I had a number of norming studies to show that when I give them this paragraph without the target inference, based on related to content like festive occasion, bright colors, there's guests, and honeymoons, people about 90% of the time infer or make the inference that this is a wedding going on. So I was curious the difference between people who made that idea or made that connection compared to people who just read about it. So for the method, I paid 264 Mechanical Turk workers. I had 6 paintings with different accompanying texts. I started out with about 30, but it's very hard to constrain people's ideas to just one thought or one idea. After they viewed each painting, they rated them with aesthetic responses, and then they also answered an inference verification question to ensure that they're making the inference while viewing the painting, just like a manipulation check. They also completed individual difference scales. So one is the aesthetic processing preference scale, which is 3 constructs about the types of thoughts that people like to have about art, sort of a trait. That was a former PoP grant that CISLL funded, so it's great to be able to use that. And also an art knowledge and art interest scale, just how much do people know about art and art interest is how often do they go to museum. Over the results, just between those 2 conditions, there was no difference in aesthetic responses between individuals who made that inference on their own or compared with individuals who just read that inference. So that's not what I predicted, but I thought maybe the lack of making inference effect could have been due to constraining thoughts to one idea. So these paintings were pretty simple, and the texts were pretty simple too, so I might need to use more abstract artworks where accompanying text might benefit them a bit more. And I was able to show that the apps predicted these aesthetic responses pretty robustly, which is great. While art interest and art knowledge, these 2 existing scales, did not predict responses, because those are more about prior knowledge and behavior visiting museums, versus the apps is more about cognitive processes, what types of thoughts do they have. So I hope to use this future, or this results, to do another follow-up experiment. So I have a reliable method of measuring whether or not a target inference is made while viewing art, so able to show that this is a valid way to do that, whereas no one has done that in aesthetics yet. Just another study that shows that the apps is psychologically valid. Hopefully the apps is currently under review, but it should be accepted this month. We have a few other studies that used it. And then in a follow-up experiment, a future study, I'll use very abstract art with this accompanying text to sort of get at a stronger effect of making a difference. So thanks to CISLL, I was able to graduate on time and pay my Mechanical Turk participants. So just want to say thank you, and I'll continue to use this data to inform my future research. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Christian. This was great. Yeah. I know, isn't that funny how that works that way when you share screen? So if we could now take a 10-minute break and get your lunch, and we could still be ending on time at 1 o'clock, even if we take a 10-minute break, because we did so well earlier. So if you could come back at, what would 10 minutes be, 22? Let's say 20. If you could come back at like 12:20, and we'll get started on the second part of how to get grants and the resources that we have available on campus. Okay? Yes, nice presentation, everyone. It's so weird not to clap. It's so weird.